let's get started and talk about, first of all, who's here. So I'm Alan Percy. I'm the Vice President of Programs at the Greater Niagara Frontier Council and one of the co-chairs of the program. And also in order that we're going to cover material, I've got Hank Stepinski. Hank, you want to just give a wave or say hi?
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Yeah. Hank is, he not only helping out with some of the chair roles, but he also manages our NCAP annual recertification so that we can get our paperwork and a nice little flag so that we're fully approved by the National BSA. Also with us is Dave Bliss. Dave is probably the most senior co-chair. Dave's been with the program since its second year, I think. Yes, no?
2005. 2005 as a participant and 2006 as a guide.
Good, yep. And he also serves on a council board with me, managing some of the other camping operations. So Dave, thanks for coming today. Also is Ron Field. Ron has joined the Guide Corps more recently, and when we talk about the Adirondacks, you'll know why, because Ron is an expert in a lot of what's going on up in the Adirondacks and trails and waterways, etc. And we've got him responsible for our logistics, so like, moving the equipment and canoes and dropping people off and picking them up and all that. So thanks, Ron, for being here today.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, let's just talk for a couple of minutes about why we're here and why we do this program in general. And some of this I know from my own personal experience. I've been seeing, watching these older scouts. They build some skills, but they're looking for opportunities for leadership. Setting some really tough goals, both mental and physical goals, and honestly, putting in a lot of those camping skills that they've learned over these years, right? First class, second class, and working their way up eventually, to Eagle. Putting some of these skills to work. And a lot of troops, it's tough to go camping and not use the trailer and not be 25 feet from the nearest road. So this is a real chance to do all that. And this is we think the big solution for a high adventure program. And like I said, from a personal note, I put two boys through scouting, and both of them eventually attained Eagle. And this was really important program for my boys to be able to get them motivated to continue to stay with scouting and to stay active, which I directly relate to getting to Eagle. So a little personal story there. All right, so we want to put together a high adventure program. And you very quickly realize that there's quite a few things that you need to work your way through to successfully put together a high adventure program. So, starting with just where should we go? What are the planning steps that are necessary? What kinds of skills and expertise do I need to build to be able to guide such a program? What training is required? What specialized equipment might be necessary for the particular trek? And knowing what equipment and knowing how to use it. And then you get into things like reservations and permits, and this is especially important when we do our program up in Canada, but also with the BSA, there's some paperwork that needs to be done. Food, which having the right food and the right amount of it and a good menu that's balanced, and some local knowledge, and then of course an opportunity to have some program, go beyond just going for a canoe trip. Learn about where are we and why is this here and what kind of people were here before us. So a little bit of program always helps. So we've put together two programs here at the Greater Niagara Frontier Council. One of them is our Birchbark Expeditions Western New York Waterways program, and Hank's going to talk to you about that. And also our traditional program, our 7-day adventure program. This next year, the 2022, we're going to keep that in the Adirondacks. We operated there this last year, and we plan to do so again next year. And probably we'll keep doing that until some of the COVID restrictions and testing requirements are eased by the Canadian government. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Hank, and he's going to walk us through the Western New York Waterways program. So take it from here, Hank.
So much like Alan, about 7 or 8 years ago, I realized as my boys were moving from Star to Life Scout that they were going to need something to motivate them. And I was watching the older scouts in our troop just kind of fade away and lose their engagement. And remember reaching out to Alan and talking to him. And we actually went and did one of the Waterways trips down Oak Orchard. And it was one of those opportunities that the kids got excited and they realized we were doing something besides that trailer camping. We were outside the scout camps and got their first taste of it. And we used it as a warm-up to take the first trek from our troop went to Algonquin that following summer, but it planted the seed for my young guys. And both my boys have gone, I believe they've been on 3, maybe 4 treks at this point. So it's kind of been exciting. But the Waterways program, it's an easy opportunity to experience the canoeing experience. Again, it's fully equipped. We know the treks. We know where the water is. We get the canoes there. You show up and you've got trained guides that are going to lead you through the expedition. And it's $15. It's like really low cost to be able to have access to the canoes, the paddles, and the life jackets, everything else. Next slide. So what are the requirements? Again, 13 years or older by September 1st, need to be a blue swimmer, pass the test. And the adults that are chaperoning the trip along with the troop need to have their youth protection in place and 2 deep leadership as any other scout activity. So all kinds of different trucks. This particular shot here is at the Buffalo Inner Harbor. Opportunities for us to trek not only along the Niagara River, but Oak Orchard, Erie, Ellicott Creek, Niagara, down to the Niagara areas, all kinds of areas for us to go paddling. As you can see, as I mentioned here, there's all kinds of locations throughout Western New York. Sometimes that's convenient for you as a troop because it's close by. Other times you want to get out of your normal trek. These are all opportunities for you to do. Treks typically no more than 4 hours in duration. The water is typically flat, no concerns about rapids or whitewater and those kinds of pieces. And how do you get started? Well, just log into the website and you'll see a link there, and we can come visit your troop. We can do that virtually. You can do that in person and share all the opportunities that are out there. And once you've got a crew ready to go and paddle, we'll get the reservations in place for you.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, thanks. And again, that is our newest program. We've been operating that for what, 2 years now, and we're very, very grateful to the donors that gave us those canoes and the equipment and all to be able to run that program. So with that, we're going to turn it over to Dave to talk about the Adirondack 7-day adventure program. So you ready, Dave?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right.
Let's
take it from here.
Let me just put a caveat in there. Last year we were forced to go to the Adirondacks. Before that, we operated 18 years in a row up at Algonquin Park. So the Adirondacks is new, but the program has been going on for a long time. We have the standard program is 7 days, Saturday to Friday or Saturday. You usually come off the water the last day of your trek on Friday. We get kind of leery about people getting on the water Friday to get done and paddling for 4 or 5 or 6 hours, coming off, then turning around and jumping in a car and driving 5 or 6 hours back home. There's no problem with staying over the additional Saturday and do whatever you want there in the Adirondacks. And there's also, we have facilities up at Assaweepie. The official program starts at Saturday morning or Saturday around lunch. But if you want to come up early the night before, we can probably accommodate you. Just let us know so we be sure we set some tents aside for you and stuff. It's flat water, or there's a couple treks that have moving water, but there's nothing over class 2, which is just moving water, and you have to paddle around a few rocks. No big water or anything. The itinerary matches your skills of the crew. We'll get, in your training and your selection of your itinerary, We'll ask you a lot of questions about what you're looking for. We'll also point out some treks that would be appropriate for you, but the treks should be designed by and approved and picked by the scouts. Don't fall into the habit of letting a leader do it. And I'll give you a little story about that. If you pick the trek and the first day something goes wrong, it's Mr. Bliss's fault. And it's Mr. Bliss's fault for the rest of the week with anything that goes wrong. If the boys pick the trek and buy into it, it works. And whatever happens, they'll make it work. Common goals are 50-miler award, which you can do, canoeing merit badge. You can do some of the cooking merit badge. We have 3 or 4 of our guides are ACA, American Canoe Association instructors. You can get your ACA flat water, moving water certification through this program also.
Oh, I should have had to leave no trace too.
Oh yes, leave no trace. We have a couple of leave no trace master educators, and all the guides are leave no trace awareness coaches and guides. We're in the Adirondacks. As a base camp, we're at Camp Mountaineer, which is on the Massawepie Scout Reservation. We're not part of their regular traditional Boy Scout camp. We're in another location across the lake from their traditional Boy Scout camp. And Massawepie is about a 6-hour drive from Buffalo. It's on Route 3 between Star Lake and Pepper Lake. And we're about 6 miles from Pepper Lake.
Nice.
And cultural activities and side trips. A little later, we'll talk about the day-by-day trek, but you have a cultural day on Saturday. Some of the different things you can see is there's the ESF, that's Environmental Science and Forestry School, Division of Syracuse University, and it's the Wanakina Ranger School also. The Six Nation Indians Museum is it's run by a family that's affiliated with one of the clans of the Mohawk Nation. They have 30,000 artifacts that they've gathered, and it's impersonal. It's very personal. There's 2 or 3 guides at the museum. They're all members of the Mohawk Nations. There's a St. Regis Summit. There's a picture of that, and there's also 2 or 3 other smaller mountains adjacent to Massawepie that you could do a climb. And finally, there's the Adirondack Wild Center in Pepper Lake. It's a very detailed geological history, and also animals, plants and animals of that area. Now, all these are included. If there's any fees, they're included with your regular Birchbark fees. Okay. Why the Adirondacks? It's a remote wilderness. There's many lakes and ponds to explore. There's a lot of well-documented routes to choose from. We have a couple different guidebooks and stuff for you. As soon as you click, decide, commit to the thing, we'll mail you the guidebooks and some maps of all the different areas, and it'll give you and your scouts a chance to go through. And in these guidebooks, there's 3 days, 4 days, 5-day treks, day activities, and all that. And there's flexibility on the routes. If you don't like what's in the guidebooks, you can plan your own trek. There are no border crossings, no passports, or COVID testing required. I'm hopefully, before I retire out of the program, we'll be able to go back to the Algonquin, but the Adirondacks is a very good substitute.
Yep. Good. Well, now we're going to turn it over to Ron. He's going to talk about the travel itinerary and some of the logistics involved. So, Ron, you want to take it from here?
Will do. Yeah, actually, what we're looking for you guys to do is to show up on sometime on Saturday. Your guides will be up there before 1 o'clock. If you get up even before the guide does, then you can set up your tents. There are open areas that we have allocated there at each of the troops will be located in. They'll be able to pitch their tents. As David said, the base camp is approximately 6 hours away from Toronto, not from Toronto, but from Buffalo, and it's a little bit west of Tupper Lake. So when you do get up there, the expectation is you'll set up your camp, you get yourselves organized, you'll get your bathing suits on, and then you'll head out to do some water training, which is a lot of it is canoe on canoe rescue, and just for the guides to see how well you guys do canoe on the water. After that, the food packaging will take place. There's a bag that's going to be set up for each day. So you're going to have to take the massive food that's given to you in a box and then open up the tins, get them all into Ziploc bags, and get it organized for each day and what you want to have. You'll then sit down. Actually, everyone who's going to go onto the trek will sit down, and the medical record will be reviewed by the guide so that they'll be understanding of any issues that may occur. For the first night, the guides or the base camp people will set up a dinner. A lot of times it's hot dogs and hamburgers, and then you'll be overnighting it in the tent. So next slide. Okay. So Sunday is sort of a laid back day. If there's specialty skills you want to learn when you're in the canoe, we can probably help you out with that. Normally what happens is the crew itself will prepare their own breakfast. And from this point on until Friday night, it's all freeze-dried meals and it's packaged meals that are all set up. So this will be your responsibility for your crew to set this up so you will learn the proper cleaning methods for your dishes and stuff. The other places that you can go that David's spoken to is for the afternoon or for later on during the day. You can head over to the Wild Center, the Six Nations Center. You can climb the high peak. The high peaks themselves are probably several hours away to get into the heart of it, but there's a lot of peaks that are within 40 minutes drive at max. There will be in-camp training. You'll be shown how to set up a bear bag. You'll be where you're supposed to set up your tents safely. There's also a GPS system, walkie-talkie system that you'll be trained on how to use. Then the guide will go over with the scout in charge the routes, make sure that everybody understands where the route is. Everybody's going to make sure that they all have enough maps and information to go through it. And then the crew will prepare their dinner. After that, it's free time, but we strongly recommend getting to bed early because you will be getting up early and the trek starts on Monday morning. Alan? All right, Monday morning. So the trail breakfast. You'll have the breakfast at the base camp, and then you'll be loading up the canoes, or the canoes will probably be loaded on the trailers by then. Then you'll jump into the vans, and then one of the guides that work out of base camp will be driving you and dropping you off at your put-in point. Then from there on out, you and the guides are off by yourselves. By the time you get done with everything, you're going to have a combination of canoeing and portaging. Okay, actually, I'm thinking of the next slide. So Friday, once you get done with it, a lot of times people get done probably close to around noon is when you're getting off the water, depending on how your trek is going. So you return to base camp, you shower, you get out all your gear that we've given to you. We lay it all out, make sure you put it out to dry. What you can do is there is a freeze-dried meal included in your package that you can have for dinner. A lot of the crews, what they decide to do after they showered is that like to go to town and get a dinner. So at their own expense, they can go into town and go into one of the restaurants. Then they're more than welcome to stay overnight. Saturday morning, they break camp and then they drive home. All right. And that's the itinerary. The requirements is they have to be a scouter, 13 years or older, pass the Blue Swimmers test. BSA health form has to be fully completed, A, B, C, and D. They have to be in good health. They have to be within the BSA height and weight limitations. And it's really recommended that the first class be the minimum grade that they're at, simply because they have the canoeing skill, or not the canoeing skill, but the camping skills, the cooking skills that will really help them out and make the trek easier. And what else did I have? Okay, typical cruise. The way the program is set up, food-wise, canoeing-wise, and everything else is for a crew of 9 people. We can do larger, we can do smaller. Preferably, this one actually works the best. So the ideal crew will be 6 youths, 2 adult advisors that come from their troop, and then 1 guide will be from our Birchbark program. So that makes a total of 9. So there'll be 3 people in each canoe, and then there'll be 3 canoes per trek. Hopefully I got my math right.
That's right.
And I believe that's the last
good.
slide. Yep. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, we can answer any questions here before we go. We got a short video we're going to show you, and then we'll move on to more about what it costs and how to sign up and all the other parts of it. So, oh yeah. So we got it.
We do the swim test. The swim test at camp.
No, you can do the swim test, 12 months before you arrive. It has to be it just can't be more than 12 months old. That's all. So
but we can do it there though.
Oh yeah. We there's not necessarily a ton of time lined up, but yes, we can do it. Yeah.
If you're from GNFC, you can do this year. We're going to be having pre-camp swim tests like we have done in the past.
It's cool.
It's preferred if you have the swim test already, because if you do, then you can actually get out onto the water with the canoes and spend more time canoeing than having a group of people going through the swim test.
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right, so we got a short little video here that gives you just a peek at what it's like to be on a Birchbark expedition.
Mark, did you have another question?
Let's see.
Yeah.
You know what? So what's the minimum crew size you can have? I know ideal would be 6 and 2, and the guide.
If you're less than 7 in the crew, there's an upcharge because of the way the food is broken down cost-wise. That would be the only thing. We can do crews of 6. We can do 5 from your unit and then 1 guide with 2 canoes. It's, we're very flexible.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, we've kind of had an older group, have kind of been together for a couple of years, but they're transitioning to college and such, but we kind of have some younger guys as well. So have to see what the interest there is.
As soon as you have a pretty firm number, get a hold of us. We'll figure it out with you. It's not a problem at all. And we also have more guides than we're going to have crews. And usually with a situation rises like that, we'll put a couple guides with you.
Yep. Good. Any other questions? I'm just looking here. Prep weekend in June. Yes, we'll be talking about that. Yeah, we've got that set up. Our shakedown for June 11th, and that'll actually be on one of the upcoming slides. We'll talk about that. All right. Good. All right. Well, sit back, relax for a grand total of 30 seconds as we share this video. Well, as you can tell, that was from Algonquin from a couple years ago, but you get the gist of it. It's a great experience. There's always something exciting around every corner, whether it be waterfalls or ponds or sunsets, whatever it might be. All right, let's talk about program costs. For this upcoming year, the program will be $450 per person. And we'll get into what it includes in a couple of slides here, so we don't have to go through this whole list here. And as Dave mentioned, there's a $25 per person upcharge for crews that are less than 7, because there are some fixed costs that we have to cover. And also, too, there's a $25 per person discount if you put a reservation in and make a deposit before the 1st of January. Based on this year and everything that's going on, I think we probably will be able to safely move that to February 1st, but it wouldn't hurt to get your request in before the end of the year this year. Okay, and how is payment done? It's done in 4 steps. First is for the whole crew is a $400 deposit, and that lets us know you're serious and you're going to continue to make your payments and you're going to show up. And then everything else is done in thirds. You do all your payments by crew, not individually, but by crew. And those are the dates here, February 1st, April 1st, and June 1st when we expect. And we have to have absolutely 100% paid by June 1st. A crew that's partially paid, or, you know, frankly, we've had crews try not to pay at all. They just get dropped from the program by June 1st. So what are the weeks for this upcoming 2022 is week 1 will be July 9th through 16th. We're also going to be running a Provo crew so if you've only got 3 or 4 or 5 boys, we might put you together with a few other scouts at a Provo, and that expands the opportunity to, you know, those troops now. There's a lot of, you know, we have a lot of troops in the council. There are a handful of boys now, and that'll give them an opportunity to still go. Weeks 2, 3, and 4 laid out here. We wrap the program up in August. We've hard committed to these 4 weeks, and if we have sufficient requirements, we could add a 5th week. All right, so let's talk about training sessions. So we do it in 3 steps. The first one we do in January, and I think, well, it depends on see where we are with COVID in January. But towards the end of January, we either do it in the office or via Zoom, and we might do it both, right, in person and also on a Zoom call. And that's really for the advisors, the adults, that just go through some of the paperwork, and we'll go through what training's required, a lot of the kind of behind the scenes infrastructure, right, paperwork and infrastructure. The second one, which is a month later in February, this is designed more for the crew leaders, the navigators, and advisors. You are going to be getting all the materials you need to plan your trek. So you're going to be getting the maps and the books and instruction on what's a good trek and maybe some suggested treks that you can start with and customize from there. You're also going to be given some instruction on how to order your food. You know, what makes a good menu, when would you take the Pop-Tarts versus the hot cocoa breakfast. And then later in June, and maybe I should, before I tell you about June, generally we like to have our crews between February and June start to work with their crews individually, working on individual skills, maybe week after week or camp out, working on some of the skills that are in the books that we give you. You know, knot tying and setting up tarps, and it never hurts to spend some time canoeing before then. Maybe you invite, set something up with the WNY Waterways program in late May. So there's lots of options there. Then in June, then we do a full day shakedown, we call it, and being held at Camp Scout Haven. And basically what this is, we've got 5 stations set up. 2 of them are canoeing skills. The other 3 are various camp skills. So they're, you know, setting up dining fly, how to do portaging correctly, camp safety, water purification, those kinds of skills. And that'll all happen on that shakedown day. And we really, really encourage crews, if they're in the area, to make every effort to bring all their crew members. And I know it usually gets involved in, you know, there's always a prom or something that gets in the way, but we really try to ask everybody to be there. All right. So let's talk about the guide staff. So we've got, I think, about 16 guides on our roster right now. A handful of them are on the call. You know, we made some introductions in the beginning, but you know, we also had. Oh, here I gotta let somebody else in here. We also got Ed Posniak. He's one of our guides. He's actually down in Louisiana. You heard from Chris, Hank. And let's see who else. Mark Potzler.
Jeremy Green.
So Jeremy Green's on the call. So these are all some of our guides. And a majority of them are ex-scoutmasters or had some leadership role in a troop. and we're looking for, what's next. And this has been a great program to keep the adults involved too, and help bring these skills to scouts that want to learn how to do canoe tripping. So the guides are highly trained. We have a significant laundry list of things that they have to complete before they go out. They're all wilderness first aid. They're all CPR trained. They're all leave no trace trained, ACA canoe training, and the list goes on and on and on. So
not to overlook, we have our senior guide in the program, Sir Charles Feller of Evanshire, New York. Charles has been with the program since its first meetings, 2002.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and thank you, Charles, for spending all that time with us. All right, let's move on and talk about how do you actually sign up. Well, it's like a two-step process. If you go to WNYScouting.org/Birchbark and then click on the program, you'll see there's a reservation request button. You fill that form out, and that tells us that you're interested and you would like to see if there's availability for that particular week for the number of scouts that would be involved. And from that, then we'll respond to you directly and say, yep, you're good to go. And at that point, then you'll get the credentials to log into our online registration system, and then you can make your deposit payment and also start to work on loading your roster and making payments for each of the youth over the the next 3 steps. A common question pops up is, what's provided? What do we include? And I think we've kind of mentioned some of these things, but we provide all your backcountry breakfast, lunch, snacks, and dinners, including the food at base camp. We have a full complement of tents. Some are 2-person tents, some are 4-person tents, and we'll of course figure out based on your crew, based on the age differences and gender differences, how we set that up. We'll give you a nice dining fly, some great heavy-duty Duluth packs for carrying all this gear and loading them into the canoes. One question that does come up is you don't need a backpack, believe it or not. It's we give you these Duluth packs, and that's where all your personal and crew gear will go. We give you a complete kitchen for the trail. We give you pots and pans and stoves and griddles and everything necessary to boil water and prepare your meals. Collection of our 17-foot Old Town Penobscots, or our Winona, did I misspell that? I think I might have misspelled that. Spirit 2 Royalex canoes. And those canoes do weigh in at 65 pounds, but they're rock solid tough. They travel really well. They're stable in windy water. We really love them, and they've done a great job for us over the years.
They're lighter than the aluminum ones.
Yes, they are a lot lighter than the aluminum and a lot easier to carry. Complement of paddles, PFDs, safety gear, a couple of water purification systems, some bear bags, and we'll send you out with the guide will have a satellite communicator device that can do text messaging and send out an SOS if worst comes to worst. So a very comprehensive set of crew gear. And then the next question always comes is, what about personal gear? You really don't need that much. One key thing we share with people is, first of all, you're probably going to need a dry bag or 2. This particular example here, there's 2 dry bags. One, the sleeping bags, and the one on the right, and then the personal clothing, the change of clothing is on the one on the left. Maybe a day pack, might be a fanny pack, or it might be one of those drawstring packs that the kids seem to have. And then some other, personal gear that goes along with it. But you don't need a whole lot more than you normally would have. If you're already scouting and doing, summer activities, a lot of that will work. The only thing maybe is, a sleeping bag. It's a summer bag, like a 40-degree bag. You really, it's summer in the Adirondacks. I think the coldest it ever gets is in the 40s. So, and we'll help you with that. We'll give you a full list. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
On the dry bag, that blue dry bag, that's a 20-liter dry bag. Each for dimensions, it's usually about 18 inches tall and 10 inches diameter. Yeah. And if you need one a lot bigger than that, you're taking too much stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the one thing we'll talk about in the training, but you know, we have to get 3 people's gear shoved into one of these Duluth packs. So space is the premium. There's not a lot of room for a lot of extra stuff. All right, so again, go ahead.
There was a question before we got to this about tents.
Ah, okay.
We have 2-person Eureka tents and 4-person Timberline tents. A lot of scouts nowadays are using hammocks. We don't provide hammocks, but hammocks work very well in this program.
Yeah.
And we have enough tents the adults can sleep one adult to each of the 2-person tents. And by next summer, we'll have more than enough 2-person tents.
Right, right. And, you know, the question I saw Rose here handling, you know, girls. Well, first of all, we took out 3 crews of girls this last summer. So we worked out, you know, we have taken venture crews out before that are co-ed. So we've kind of worked through all the idiosyncrasies of, you know, mixed gender or single gender, male and female crews. So yes, we are set up to handle all that. And because of some of the changes in the BSA rules, we also have to be careful of the age difference between scouts in the tenting arrangements. And so that's why we have this mix of tents. And again, we provide all of them, but if a troop wants to bring their own tents and they're, you know, high adventure backpacking tents, we're fine to let you use them. But, you know, we definitely supply with them.
On the females, we've had a lot of crews that have brought female scouters, and they are actually with the female along. It's a lot smoother crew operations. Don't ask the mothers or the women in the crew to do the dishes. But other than that, they do very well.
Yeah, no, they do great, and it's been a real joy to expand the program. All right, so I think this is just where we go through more information. If you got any other questions, feel free to drop them in here. And like I mentioned before, you know, the WNYScouting.org/Birchbark, you can see all our programs, and specifically the Western New York Waterways and the Adirondack adventure for this upcoming summer. If you follow through and hit the resources button on those pages, you'll be taken to a page that has all kinds of other information on the programs. There's another collection of videos. We've got a YouTube channel now, and that resource page. There's a form that you can fill out to have us come and do a presentation at your troop. And it's basically a little bit, you know, bigger version of what we're talking about today. But the idea is we can walk you through and walk your troop through what the program is and how it works and get them excited about it. We usually include quite a bit more video when we do those kind of youth-focused programs. And we got some brochures online that it can be downloaded and printed and handed out to a troop meeting, or if you need, well, we have a collection of them at the council office that you can pick up a batch and take them with you. So with that, any last questions? I'll leave the Q&A open here. Comments, questions, suggestions?
Alan, can I ask about the itineraries?
Yes.
In terms of flexibility, again, like we have kind of some older scouts, you know, in our venturing crew, but then also some younger scouts as well. So we'd kind of have to see how that plays out. But it's kind of my impression, though, that really you've got some flexibility in terms of making something, you know, more on the strenuous side or rigorous, or kind of backing off on that a little bit as well.
Right. Yeah, no, it's great. It's a great question. And one of the things we were able to do this last summer is there were a few crews who were really absolute beginners. I mean, they, you know, came to base camp not knowing how to hold a paddle, which was a little disappointing, but we worked with it and we got it working. And so the trek that they did had no portaging in it. It was just purely one of the big lakes, the Cranberry Lake, near where our base camp is, and that gave them an opportunity to, you know, go into the wilderness, do some hiking, go to the ESF school, for example. I think they went to a fire tower. So there's definitely, a program for ranked beginners. And then at the same time, we had other crews who did some pretty aggressive treks. The Osawachi Traverse, I think, has got a 2-mile portage in it, something like that. And then a whole lot of beaver dams that have to be navigated, big waterfalls, some other that needs to be worked around. So there's some really diverse options, and we can guide you through that, through the process. So,
Mark, do you have enough older scouts to put together a crew of older scouts to do a challenging one, and then a crew of younger scouts to just to make, one step up from a flatwater lake?
Yeah, I mean that remains to be seen. I think so. A lot of our older guys, kind of, we've gone to Algonquin. We went to Philmont this past year. Like I say, some of them have kind of, moved on to college and things. So I'd have to gauge, where they're going to be at next summer. But we do have kind of a younger group as well, who this is more kind of what I'm thinking about this for, but not necessarily the same treks, that we had done with those, with these more experienced guys in the last couple of years.
Right.
Okay.
That's kind of how I'm selling it. Sure.
Hey guys, this is John Cavanaugh with Troop 27.
John.
Thanks. So if we had a group of scouts from Troop 27 who wanted to start the backcountry canoeing expedition on Monday, and let's say they wanted to do 4 days and 3 nights and do an extra day hiking on Friday, is that a concern, that type of flexibility?
Completely possible.
That works out fine.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Yeah, one of the nice things with the arrangement we got up in the Adirondacks this last year and upcoming year is we'll have the camp for the duration that will be there. So, we can accommodate crews going on and off the water at unusual times. That was a lot more difficult to do up when we were up in Algonquin because we only had the base camp for the weekends. And so, yeah, absolute flexibility. And it's great. We love to see crews come up and paddle for a few, 3-4 days, and then maybe they do a high peak or go off and see some of the more of the features up in the Adirondacks. So happy to make it happen.
And John, one of the other things your group can do too is that instead of going out on a Monday, if your crew is already experienced, they can actually head out on a Sunday, and then we can pick you up on Thursday, and then you'd have all day Friday to do whatever hikes you want.
Yep.
Well, that's a good scenario too. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yep. We did that with a couple of crews this year.
Good. All right. Looks like that's it for the questions. Unless anybody wants to squeeze one last one in.
Hey, Alan, I'm sorry. Could I ask about did we mention dates on the Western New York on the local trips? We've done both of those, and that was for $15. I mean, that was, both of the trips were great. Algonquin was great, but the day trip was fantastic as well.
Yep. Well, basically any weekend in the summer. I think the only tough part would be is while we're operating up in the Adirondacks, we might have the canoes tied up. But yeah, it's I think the plan is to start operating the 15th of May, and then end the 15th of October. And what really constrains the season is the water temperature and air temperature. So when it gets too cold both ways, either water or air, or the water's too cold, the air's not warm enough, then that really caps us. But other than that, if you put a request in, say, hey, I want to go out June, weekend of June 15th or Saturday, what we do then is we put out a call to the guides and see if we can get you a guide and somebody that'll haul the canoes. And then if the answer is yes, then we say we'll do it, and we set you up with with a staff to help you on the trek. Pretty much like last year.
Yeah, we have some of our guides are retired, so you could do it like if there's a day off, a school holiday, we could do it during the week.
Yep.
We're very flexible. The more detail on the air and the water temperature, the BSA has a rule of 120. The air temperature and the water temperature the total can't be less than 120 degrees. So
if it's a 60-degree day and the water's 60 degrees, I still wouldn't go out. But
well, you can you can pick your route to be like on a creek where you're not out in the middle of the lake. It's easy to get out.
True.
But also you got to remember with that, a lot of these streams and creeks that we use are basically fed with, snow runoff. So the air could be 75 degrees, but the water could be a lot less than that.
Yeah, 40 or something like that. Yep.
Yeah.
Good. All right, so just one little last thing. I just want to first of all, thank the guides for making this happen again tonight. This, this really dedicated crew to bring these crews out. This is Troop 92 from East Amherst, and Hank's in there somewhere. It's a real pleasure to be able to, when we finish up these treks and we go to Eagle Boards or we go to Eagle Courts, and hear the scouts say, the highlight of my scouting career was Philmont, Birchbark, one of these high adventure programs. It just keeps us so motivated and excited about it. So it's a genuine pleasure to help make it happen. And as you know, this is all volunteer corps, and that's how we can keep it so affordable is, we don't have any staff that we have to pay for along the way. So with that, I'm going to say thanks for attending tonight, and I hope you take your adventure to new heights, and look forward to having you along with us this next summer. All right? Thank you, everyone.